Hi everyone, as promised, welcome to the complete Viktor Path of Champions guide. There's a lot to talk about, so let's not waste any more time. Viktor is a 4 mana 2/4 with augment that keeps generating hex cores every round. Hex cores gives him a random positive keyword that he doesn't already have. And, once he has all the keywords, it gives him stacks of stackable keywords like Impact or Spirit. Hex cores, being a created card, also trigger his augment and gets him a +1 attack, so in a way he's also getting stats. He levels up after you play 7 created cards, and at level 2 all created cards cost 1 less, which is a pretty huge effect. His champion spell has more negatives than positive. The damage it provides is low, and yes, it generates 2 other cards, which is positive for Viktor playstyle, but both of them are weak and sacrifice you a better draw, which is very much needed, especially in early game. Moving on, his deck is pretty low cost, and many of his cards play into the augmented keyword by generating other cards or having the keyword themselves. All the cards synergize and none of them feel left out. But if I have one complaint, is in the Mimic. She is good, don't get me wrong, but a bit expensive, and in many situations you could have drawn something better. So, if you don't find some items during the adventure that either buff her or reduce her costs, I think it's better to cut her from the deck entirely when visiting a health node. For the levels, it's true that you want every character to be at least level 30, but there are specific milestones that really help. I'm talking about the stopwatch on the X-Core and on the Aftershock. Making these spells burst speed is amazing, cause you don't lose a turn by using them, and you can also use them defensively during an attack, which will save your life many times. There is also the Overwhelm on Ballistic Bot, that is a very much needed finisher, since Viktor lacked direct damage on Nexus. Aside from the 4-star, that we will disclose now. Let's talk about Constellation. The first 3-star are mandatory to not die at the first encounter in mid to high level adventures. Going further into details, the first star gives all your augmented allies +1/+1, which is boosted at 3-star with an additional effect that gives your augmented allies +1 health every time augment is triggered, making every activation a +1/+1 to every unit with the keyword. The 2-star gives augment to every created ally. Now, this already makes Viktor deck pretty functional, but then you see that his bonus nodes gives augment to every ally you'll find in adventure and can feel the incredible synergy all the packages. I unironically think that these nodes are more important than his 4-star, which deals 1 damage to the enemy nexus every time you cast a spell, which you do a lot and is a reliable source of plunder and cheap damage, but not having to worry about having a specific follower on board to trigger the effect anymore makes your life a lot easier. His 6-star is incredible. Every time you play a created ally or spell, you double it. This not only gives you double the value of the card, but also trigger augment 2 times, giving +2/+2 to all the board. Levels up Viktor twice as fast. If it's a follower, the first one triggers his augment, and in case of a spell, you trigger 2 times the 4-star, damaging the enemy nexus for 2 instead of 1. This buff is so strong that changes the value of some relics entirely, and forces me to make 2 separate sections to disclose the best relics for Viktor with 6-star locked or unlocked. Thank you, Viktor. I planned on doing overtime. Talking about relics, we need to discuss his signature one. This relic is simply incredible. It gives you X-Core every round, so you can consistently use a created card. It lets you target allies other than Viktor, so you can buff whoever you need. It gets better with 6-star, since you can cast it twice and get double the keyword and a +2/+2 on all the board. This relic is a game changer for him. It's also versatile on many champions too, like Yuumi, Kai'Sa, Illuminated Lux, and any other that needs a lot of keywords or to target allies. Now, for the relic builds, I will start with listing possible alternatives for non-6-star build. Viktor heavily focuses on ramping up by using created cards to boost the stats of the board and gain a lot of keywords, but he lacks a reliable finisher. Unless you roll Overwhelm or Elusive on your X-Core, or manages to make your ballistic bot or Nigh Android big enough, or in alternative deplete the enemy Nexus with spells 1 damage at a time, you will have trouble making a direct hit. So, considering that, having the Beast Within to have Overwhelm on all your heavy hitters board will speed up the process of finding a finisher. Obviously, his signature relic is the most important to have, and I highly advise on buying it, but if you want to stay free to play, you can use the Symphony to have a 0 mana fleeting spell every attack round, which is worse, but it is still an engine. Big Guns is also a good alternative, since you will often use the Ballistic Bot spell to ramp up the board. For rare relics, since you will use a lot of spells, something like Archangel Staff can help manage your mana better. Chemtech Duplicator can also help the printing process once you enter the later stages of an encounter. Guardian Angel can help keeping Viktor on board for more X-Cores, and gives a revive in case you get high-rolled in some encounters. King Crown for Mass Overwhelm, and Evolve if you want to stack keywords fast. A silly but weirdly effective relic is Full Build, cause it gives Viktor 3 good keywords you would want to have anyway, and it removes them from the pool of X-Core, giving you more chances to roll the premium ones like Lifesteal, Deathless and Spell Shield. There are also some evergreen ones, just in case you have some free slots, like Black Shield, that helps a lot in spell heavy encounters like the Pale Death or Ionia in general, Loaded Dice for some high rolls, and Packet Powder if you have the 4-star unlocked to play Viktor at turn 1. For the 6-star build, many relics that rely on copies gets a lot of value. For example, Oath of the Guardians gives you double the champion on summon, and both of them have already augment to stack stats even more. Echoing Spirits is good cause it lets you have double Viktor on board, so if you want to do the math, it's 4 X-Cores a turn and 6 with the relic, but it can disrupt the flow of the deck, since you now have a lot of Viktors and you realistically need to play him only once. So you're stuck throwing his champion spell over and over again, without having the possibility to use it unless you want 2 out of 3 cards in your top deck to be the next spell. So handle it with care. Condenser is also really good to have a quick print of ballistic bots. Deadweight Chase Gun to have 8 damage to the enemy Nexus with the 4-star passive, Guardian Trinket for the same reason as the Oath of the Guardians, and Hymn of Valor for quadruple the stats. There is also a build I saw from Sunny in this video when you play 6-star Viktor with his signature relic, Hidden Tome to refill your spell mana, and Hymn of Valor to quadruple his stats after the X-Core and make him a 36-44. As you can see, you can get really creative with him, and it's difficult to pick a set combination that is clearly the best from the one that I listed. About powers, it's pretty easy and straightforward. You need to focus on every power that gives you printing potential, created cards, summons at the beginning of the game, mana discount, or overwhelm if you don't have it from the relics. All of them are a no-brainer on him. If you have more than one power that fit this criteria in the same choice, you need to prioritize in this order. Summons, cause they will have augment and give you already a body to buff, mana discounts, created cards and printing potential as last. His best in slot power is obviously Duplicate, especially if you have the 6-star already. Stolen powers like Stun or Freeze are good to have in order to survive more smoothly on the early game, which is the worst phase of Viktor, but this needs to be considered as a last resort, because if you find any of the other powers in the same choices, you need to prioritize those ones. For champions, you want someone cheap, fast, if possible with some created card, and with some spells. The best ones, in my opinion, are Ezreal, Zoe and Samira that fit all these criteria. There is also Heimerdinger, but he is a bit slow on 5 mana, even though he can create followers to swarm the board. For encounters, considering that Viktor needs to have time to build his board before buffing it, he struggles in the early phases of the match. So, heavily aggressive stages like Draven, Katarina, Zed, Elise and Sleepless Slumber kernel punish him really hard, if he doesn't have a good hand. Also, heavy removal decks, if you don't have spell shield, can easily disrupt all your plans. So you need to watch out for Karma, Anivia, the Pale Death and Viego. Some encounters that Viktor can abuse are slower stages like Tankkench, Ash, Nautilus, Gangplank and Sejuani. And with that we are done! We covered everything that needed to be covered in order to have a complete guide for Viktor. Let me know in the comments if you want guides for other champions. This is SoyGyoza and we'll see each other in the next video.